Morning, morning, morning. Hi, gang. Hey, I was just looking at the spread for Dallas and Tampa Bay Monday night. I was surprised because it's Dallas giving up only 2.5 to the GOAT and Tampa Bay. I'm excited about that game. I really love this weekend of pro football, wild card weekend. So many games going on today, tomorrow, Monday. A lot of fun, a lot of unpredictability, and a lot of teams that I just kind of like. I like seeing New York back in the playoffs. I know they're a rival of Philadelphia, but I like it. Anyway, if you like it, you might want to have some skin in the game. The BetParx Casino app, the odds and slots and games right in the palm of your hand. BetParx Casino app, the only one that I recommend. So easy to use. And you get to bet on more than just the score. We love prop bets at the time of the big game. Well, you can make prop bets all year long, including this weekend. So join me and download the BetParx app. Start playing instantly. Got to be 21 in Pennsylvania or New Jersey. See betparx.com for full terms and conditions. If you've got a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. One more thing in the category of shameless self-promotion. Please make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel and ring that bell for notifications so that you know when there's content live coming your way. I really appreciate those of you who are with me live on a Saturday at 7:30 a.m. before the CNN program and Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. before the SiriusXM program. All right, with all of that out of the way, I want to explain today's poll question at Smerconish.com. Did Biden just give Trump a get-out-of-jail-free card? Little Monopoly reference there. And I want to name drop because it'll help me put this in context. I actually have notes today because there's so many things that I want to make sure that I properly explain. First and foremost, Harold Martin was a government contractor who today is in prison, midway through or thereabouts, a 9-year sentence. What did he do? He was a private contractor who took home both hard and digital copies of documents to which he was not permitted or entitled to remove. We're talking 500 million pages. And for that, he was prosecuted. He was prosecuted by a guy named Harvey Eisenberg, with whom I spoke last night as part of my show prep. Really smart guy who will be on my CNN program today. Harvey Eisenberg, the federal prosecutor, was then working under the direction of the United States Attorney, Robert Hur. Oh, you've heard that name this week, haven't you? So Eisenberg will be my guest. We will talk about Hur and his role as special counsel, but we're going to talk about both the legal and practical considerations of both Biden and Trump, because they do impact one another, or at least so I'm going to argue, and so I think my guest is going to argue. The issue that there are really two different means of prosecuting these type of government and or classified document cases in very general terms. What do you have to show to be successful in a prosecution of these cases? You've got to be able to show that it was something more than negligence, that it was deliberate, that the documents were taken, the documents were retained, it was intentional conduct on the part of the actor. And when I lay that out and I say that it's got to be something more than negligence, it sounds to me much more like Trump than it does Biden, right? Because I think Trump's conduct arguably exhibited a level of recklessness with regard to his removal of the documents, keeping the documents, refusing to hand them over. By the way, he argues, well, he had this waving of the magic wand while he was still at the White House and declassified the documents and so forth, which raises the defense he will make or is making, at least now through the media, one of, I believed I was entitled to have possession of those documents. Is that a valid defense? Well, it has to be reasonable, right? If you assert an unreasonable belief, that's not going to be a defense. If if the court concludes that Trump had a reasonable belief that they were declassified, that he had rights by virtue of being president, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, well, then it's different. I don't think that defense is going to save him if it ever gets to that point. But I don't think it's going to get to that point for reasons I've yet to explain. With regard to Biden, as I said on radio yesterday, and as I will say in different language on television today, he's his own worst enemy. I think these are unforced errors. And he's his own worst enemy because he's not adhering to Lanny Davis's prescription of when you're a public servant in a crisis. Tell it early, tell it all, and tell it yourself. Well, he's not telling it early. The initial discovery was on November 2nd, and we only learned of it because of CBS reporting on Monday. And then after the CBS report came to light and the White House released a statement on Monday, the White House didn't acknowledge that on December 20, the second cache of documents were found in Wilmington. And when the president spoke on Tuesday from Mexico City and said that he was surprised by all of this, he didn't acknowledge it. Like, what the hell? Did he not know on Tuesday about the December 20 discovery in Wilmington? That would be curious. Who would have kept that information from him? And if he did know, why didn't he say something? I'm not giving him a pass because he's a big boy and he's been around for 50 years as a public servant. But I wonder if he's getting bad advice. You know, in Mexico City on Tuesday, and again, I guess it was Thursday when Peter Doocy questioned him and the Corvette came to light. In the limited instances where he has spoken, it seems to me like he's reading notes. Okay, somebody wrote that for him, somebody in the White House counsel's office. They're not doing right by him if they're telling me he's got to be all buttoned up and don't say anything. And guess what? We're not going to tell you, Mr. President, what we found at the Penn office in November or in Wilmington in December, because then, Mr. President, this is all me speculating here, because then, Mr. President, when you're asked by investigators from the archives or justice or the media about, well, what was in those documents, you'll have to explain. Instead of just saying, I don't know, I don't remember. Maybe legally it makes sense, although I don't think so. But practically it makes no sense. Tell it early, they didn't. 2 months went off the clock. Tell it all, they haven't. On Tuesday, he didn't acknowledge the Wilmington discovery. Tell it yourself, no. Karine Jean-Pierre has been thrown to the wolves, repeating on a loop her line about how the president takes classified documents seriously. Well, no matter how many times they say it, it doesn't make it the case. So I think they're totally blowing this. It's like that episode in Seinfeld with George Costanza, The Opposite, written, by the way, by a Philly guy named Andy Cowan, whose podcast I just did. And on my Facebook page, you can find a link to it. Sorry, that was a total diversion. But it's like that episode where George Costanza decides he's going to change his life, and he does the opposite of his natural inclination. They are doing the opposite. Maybe I should say this on CNN too. The opposite is a good line, don't you think? They're doing the opposite of the Lanny Davis advice. So anyway, Trump, I believe, on the merits, based on what we know today, and we don't know a lot about Biden, from a legal standpoint, is in a much worse pickle than Biden. Biden, unless there's something nefarious to all of this that I don't understand, and I'm not buying into, the big thing on Fox now is to say, well, it was really Hunter's house. Hunter's driver's license listed him as that address. Well, my kid's driver's license is listed my house too, but it's my house with my wife, not their house. Anyway, so why then am I asking the question, did Biden just give Trump a get out of jail free card? For this reason. So now we have I know the media loves to tell you these are two totally different cases. And in many respects, they are. But I just get sick and tired of hearing it like, oh, we need to tell you this. They're two totally different cases. Okay, so I just told you two. But what do they have in common? Two American presidents are being investigated by special counsel for their handling of classified information. That's in common. So as I try to think where this is going, think through where this is going, each of those special counsel will make a recommendation to Merrick Garland. And their assessment is going to be one of, was the law broken and can we win this case? Can we prove this case? But Merrick Garland's calculus, I think, is going to be somewhat different. It's not going to be this rote, black and white, was the law broken and can we prove it? But rather, was the law broken? Can we prove it? And do we want to put the country through this? Now, you're not going to find that in any law book. It's not in the Constitution. Are we going to put the country through it? But I spoke to Harvey Eisenberg last night, who worked for special counsel Robert Hur and prosecuted Harold Martin. And this is where our focus was. And he believes, and I believe, that that will be a part of Garland's thinking. And in that way, Biden having issues, even if there's not parity between his and Trump, will nevertheless influence whether Trump gets prosecuted. My view, for what it's worth, is that Trump gets prosecuted for Mar-a-Lago if he's being prosecuted for January 6th, because then it's like the tail on the dog. I can't see Trump being prosecuted solely for Mar-a-Lago, even though I think he has legitimate legal exposure there. And in part, it's because I already was of that opinion. But now with Biden having issues, I just don't think that Garland, unless there's something much more nefarious to Biden's conduct, which I don't think is the case. But if Biden's conduct was benign, right, go back to what I said, it's got to be deliberate, intentional, uncooperative. You know, they cooperated, they say, immediately with the archives and with justice. So if Biden's conduct is benign and there's no prosecution there, is Merrick Garland really going to prosecute Donald Trump, where half the country is going to say, you didn't, Comey didn't prosecute Hillary, Garland won't prosecute Biden, the fix is in, what do they always say? The deep state, they've got it in for Republicans, it's a farce. And then what happens? And then how do you win a prosecution where half the country is of that mindset? How do you get a jury that's going to be willing to convict Donald Trump? So for all of those reasons, I'm asking the question, did Biden just give Trump a get out of jail free card? So go to Smerconish.com and cast a ballot on that. I will read all of these later. Contractor gets 9 years and Sandy Berger just gets fined. Yeah, I mean, and look, in the same way, I'm sorry, your name flew by there. People will say, what about him? What about him? What about this? I would say relative to Berger, not defending Berger. By the way, did you like my line on radio yesterday? Is that a classified document, or are you just happy to see me? Whack, whack. This guy, Martin, 500 million pages. 500 million pages. Remember, the Washington Post said, we don't think that Trump took those documents to profit. He was not looking to sell them. He wanted trophies. Now, is that relevant to the decision as to whether he gets charged? I think it mitigates any punishment. But no, it wouldn't. Corinne Kenny, impossible. It's so disappointing. I know a lot of people say, like, holy crap, Trump again stepped in it. The guy just seems to have 9 lives, politically speaking. Hey, I might be wrong. I'm just telling you what I think, having read in and given consideration to these issues. Al Capone got 11 years for tax fraud. Delight loves movies. Yeah, interesting. You know where he served? He served in Philadelphia, in the Art Museum area, and the jail where he served is like an attraction on. I have a mental block thinking about the name of it, even though I've been there. We did it with our kids at Halloween. You know, you can go and you can walk through and you can see the cell where Al Capone was. Robert Goldstein, folks, the mere taking of the documents knowingly is not enough. You've got to meet the intent to retain them. I said that. Take them, intend to retain them. Mere negligence doesn't cut it. And Robert Goldstein even has a citation here. Christopher Stile, good observation, says Trump has been very quiet. He has, hasn't he? Yeah, we haven't heard from him on this. He's exercising some remarkable restraint. Well, why is that the case? I would say, frankly, I don't know, because he never shows restraint. But I would say because this is all going his way for the reasons that I just articulated. The only thing he could do is screw it up by becoming part of the conversation. What's amazing, though, is that normally he's incapable of exercising any restraint. Fairmount Street. Yeah, Sean Nichols, it is in Fairmount. Oh, there you go. EJ, Eastern State Penitentiary. Yeah. And right across from the Eastern State Penitentiary, and I don't even know if they're still there, is Jack's Firehouse, which was always a favorite restaurant of mine. When I lived in the city, like that was where I would go for my birthday. Jack's Firehouse. Yvonne Jane, or is it Jane Yvonne? The get out of jail question is obvious. Of course, this is a gift. Well, when I voted, because I think it is, 60-40 said it was not. That was only a couple of hundred people who had cast ballots when I took a look at it. MM126, I feel the Hunter laptop and Ashley diary are much bigger stories, in my opinion. The Ashley diary is just twisted. I mean, like she left it for safekeeping with somebody in an apartment that she had rented, and that person ended up handing it to the media. That's treacherous. If Biden gets a pass on anything, Trump knows he does too, says Tammy Moran. Yeah. Michael Holm, this blows over. Look, I think it's an issue where political junkies like all of us are caught up in it. Gets discussed on a program like mine. But it's getting covered extensively on CNN, MSNBC, and Fox. It's a legitimate story. It's a president with classified information where he shouldn't have had it. But I don't know that it moves the needle in the country. I mean, what moves the needle in the country? Here, I'll tell you what moves the needle in the country. Lisa Marie and Elvis. That moves the needle in the country. I got punted yesterday. I didn't get punted. I got moved from CNN at 7 a.m., which is morning prime time. Instead, they said, hey, we're going to put you on at 6:45. Why? Because they wanted to talk about Lisa Marie. And I get it. When I looked up and I looked at my television monitors yesterday in my studio, MSNBC, Fox, and CNN, all on Lisa Marie. That story took precedence over the document issue. That's where people are. That is where people are. I think I want to see Graceland now. Hey, I got to go get my noggin powdered and get back to work. Wish you all a very, very good day. Thank you so much for being here. Remember, subscribe to my YouTube channel, ring the bell, and you get notifications. Listen to TC After Dark. She's got a great episode this week, as she always does. And I will see you again soon.